Thanks for joining us for this week's Health News You Can Use. I'm Lindsay Stish. This week we're talking about new exciting research in the prevention of Alzheimer's disease. I'm here today with Dr. James O'Keefe, a preventive cardiologist at St. Luke's Mid-America Heart Institute. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Lindsay. It's nice to be here.
Right now, 5.3 million people are living with Alzheimer's disease in the U.S. That number is expected to nearly triple by the year 2050. Currently, there's no cure for the disease, and so far, no effective therapies to reduce the risk of developing dementia. Dr. O'Keefe and his colleagues published a study recently that found a promising therapy that could do just that. Well, Dr. O'Keefe, first, can you tell us a bit about the study's findings?
Sure. So this is a comprehensive review of the literature, and the bottom line was that yes, it does look very promising, like maybe 50 to 70% reduced risk of developing Alzheimer's disease in people that get long-term effective therapy to reduce TNF-alpha levels.
That's great. Now explain what that is a little bit more. What's TNF?
TNF stands for tissue necrosis factor, and this is a master hormone that turns on inflammation. So the people who have high levels of TNF-alpha have a chronic high level of inflammation. TNF is there because lots of times we need inflammation to help us sort of combat infections, to destroy foreign invaders, to help heal wounds and injuries. But normally TNF-alpha is turned on when we need it, and it does its damage and cleaning things up and getting things back to normal, and then it goes back down to very low baseline levels. So people who have Alzheimer's disease, it looks like they've had chronically elevated levels of TNF-alpha for years or decades before, which takes this toll on the brain and the thinking capability.
Okay, and what inspired or prompted you and your colleagues to start this review?
Well, my professional passion is prevention, and it turns out that cardiovascular disease like heart attacks and strokes and diabetes and Alzheimer's disease, even macular degeneration in the eyes, these have a lot of common risk factors. And when you drill down on why that might be, it does seem like that chronic low-grade inflammation is playing a major role. We've been seeing these reports coming out that when you look at large databases, millions of people followed for multiple years on different therapies, the people who had rheumatoid arthritis or psoriasis who were on TNF-alpha blockers like Enbrel or Humira seem to have like a 50 to 70% lower risk of Alzheimer's disease. So when we started looking into the animal model data and put together this systematic review, I collaborated with two of the top people in the country, and we worked together on exploring this topic and putting together a hypothetical proposal that TNF-alpha inhibition, whether it's with an over-the-counter product like Theracurmin, or these expensive biological injectable drugs like Enbrel and Humira, might be an effective strategy for preventing Alzheimer's disease. And the bottom line is that, yeah, it does look very promising. The biological plausibility is behind it, because when you understand what causes these disease and see how these therapies work, you would think that this might be an effective strategy.
Great. So what kind of impact could this research have in the long run?
So I think almost everybody out there would have a relative or a friend or a neighbor who's had Alzheimer's disease. It's really one of the most disturbing and stressful things that could happen to a family, especially people who are close to the individual, to see this really nasty, nefarious disease, just gradually rob the person of their personality and their ability to cope with the world and eventually to even recognize their loved ones. So this, in my opinion, is by far the most promising. And like I say, two of the top Alzheimer's researchers in the country who are co-authors on this paper agree with this. I think that we might be able to really make a substantial impact on one of the worst possible diseases out there, for which now we are completely powerless.
Great. So what steps are needed next to make this available? And in the meantime, what can people do to lower their chances of developing this disease?
Well, a lot of the same things that we do to prevent heart disease and stroke are effective for lowering your risk of Alzheimer's disease. This would be, staying physically active, getting plenty of exercise, especially outdoor exercise, staying emotionally connected, and sort of socially active. Now, we have to be a little careful these days with the COVID. Sugar is the evil white crystal, okay, out there that really, really tends to feed the flames of Alzheimer's disease and really predisposes a person to getting it. So as much as you like your sweet treats and your desserts and your sweetened beverages, these are toxic to your brain. The more you consume sweet, sugary food and beverages, and for that matter, white flour, kind of baked goods and all the stuff that'll be showing up any day now for Christmas. But these things, the more you eat them, the more you crave them. But it works the other way too. The less you eat them, the less you crave them. But keep in mind, for your brain's health, even for your mood, not to mention your waistline and your risk of developing diabetes and obesity, but with respect to Alzheimer's disease, this is the most important thing you can do with your diet, is get the sugar and the refined carbohydrates out of your diet. Eat more healthy fats. The brain is healthy when you're feeding it things like nuts, extra virgin olive oil, seeds, oily fish, and avocados. It's not a long list, but those are loaded with healthy fats. And getting your sleep. It turns out that getting plenty of sleep is not only good for keeping your blood pressure down and your mood good, but it also probably helps to prevent Alzheimer's disease. It's the slow, deep wave sleep that we tend to go into early in the night. But then on top of that, controlling your blood pressure, making sure your cholesterol is under control, and keeping stress under control. Easier said than done these days, right?
Well, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I guess I would just say that this is a really common, devastating disease. We have a lot of strategies now to help, at least that are hopeful for preventing it. And stay tuned, because I think this could be a real game changer of a therapy. Well, thank you again, Dr. O'Keefe, for joining us. My pleasure. Next week, we'll be talking to Dr. Karen Olds about the neurological impact of COVID-19. If you have any questions for Dr. Olds, you can send us a direct message to our main Facebook page at St. Luke's KC. You can also stay up to date with all the latest developments on the COVID pandemic and other health news from St. Luke's at stlukeskc.org/news. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time on Health News You Can Use.